Okay, we're going to continue on in the Apocrypha. This is the book of Judith, chapter 11, verse 7. For by the life of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the whole earth, and by the might of him who has sent you to correct every soul, not only do men serve him because of you, but also the wild animals and the cattle and the wild birds, through your might shall live under the sway of Nebuchadnezzar and all his house. For we have heard of your wisdom and the cleverness of your mind, and the whole earth has been told that you are the only man in the whole kingdom who is competent and able in knowledge and wonderful in the arts of war. Now as to what Achior said in your council, we have heard his words, for the men of Bethulia saved him, and we have told them all that he has had said before you. Therefore, my Lord and Master, do not disregard what he said, but treasure it in your heart. For it is true, for our nation cannot be punished. The sword cannot prevail against them unless they sin against their God. And now that my Lord may not be defeated and disappointed, death is about to fall upon them. For a sin has overtaken them by which will anger their God, when they shall do what they should not. When food failed them and all their water grew scanty, they planned to resort to their cattle and to resolve to consume all that God by his laws had forbidden them to eat. The first fruits of the wheat, and a tenth of the wine and the oil which they had consecrated and reserved for the priest, who stand before our face of our God in Jerusalem, which none of the people is permitted even to touch with their hands. They decided to consume. They have sent men to Jerusalem, because those who live there have done this, to bring them permission from the Senate. The result will be that when the answer reaches them and they do this, on that day they will be delivered up to you to be destroyed. So when I, your slave, learned all this, I made my escape from their presence, and God sent me to perform these things with you, at which the whole army, as many as I shall hear of them, shall be astonished. For your slave is devout and serves the God of heaven night and day. But I will stay with you, my Lord, and every night your slave will go out into the valley. I will pray to God, and he will tell me when they have committed their sins. And I will come and report it to you. Also, you shall go out with your whole army, and not one of them will oppose you. I will lead you through the heart of Judea until you face Jerusalem. And I will set your throne in the midst of her. And you shall drive them like sheep that have no shepherd. And no dog shall so much as growl at you. For this was told me to give me foreknowledge. It was declared to me, and I was sent to tell you. Her words pleased Holofernes and all his attendants, and they wondered at her wisdom and said, there is not such a woman from one end of the earth to the other, for beauty and innocence. So Holofernes said to her, God did well to send you before the people, to put strength in our hands and to bring destruction upon those who have slighted my Lord. You are beautiful, and you speak well, for if you do as you have been said, your God shall be my God, and you shall live in the house of King Nebuchadnezzar and be renowned over the whole earth. Then he commanded them to bring her in where his silver dishes were, and gave orders that they should set some of his own food before her, and that she should drink his wine. But Judith said, I cannot eat them, for it might give offense, but I will be supplied with the things I have brought with me. Holofernes said to her, if what you have with you gives out, where can we get more like it to give you? And Judith said to him, as surely as you are alive, my Lord, your slave will not use up these things, I have with me before the Lord carries out by my hand the things he has resolved upon. So Holofernes' attendants brought her into the tent, and she slept until midnight. And toward the morning watch she got up and sent to Holofernes, saying, Let not my lord give orders that your slave be permitted to go out to pray. And Holofernes ordered his bodyguards not to hinder her, and she remained in the camp 3 days. And at night she went out in the valley of Bethulia and washed herself at the spring in the camp. And when she came up from the water, she prayed the Lord God of Israel to make her way straight, so she may raise up the sons of his people. And then she went in clean and stayed in the tent until she had her food toward evening. And it happened on the 4th day, Holofernes gave a banquet for his slaves only, and invited none of those on duty. And he said to Bagos, the eunuch, who had charge of all that he had, Go now, and persuade this Hebrew woman who is in your charge to come up and eat and drink with us. For it is a disgrace to our dignity if we let such a woman go without having her company. For if we do not draw her to us, she will laugh at us. So Bagonas went out of the presence of Holofernes and went into her and said, This beautiful maidservant must not hesitate to come to my lord and be honored in his presence, and drink wine and be merry with us, and to become today like a daughter of the Assyrians who wait in the house of Nebuchadnezzar. Then Judas said to him, And who am I to refuse my Lord? For I will make haste to do everything that is pleasing in his sight, and this will be my boast of the day of my death. And she got up and dressed herself beautifully with all her feminine finery, and her slave went and spread fleeces on the ground for her before Holofernes, which she had received from Bagoas for his daily use, so that she might recline on them and eat. So Judith went in and lay down, and Holofernes' mind was amazed at her, and his heart stirred, and he was exceedingly desirous of intimacy with her, for he had been watching for an opportunity to deceive her ever since he had seen her. And Holofernes said to her, Drink now and be merry with us. And Judith said, Certainly I will drink, my lord, for my life means more to me today than all the days since I was born. Then she took what her slave had prepared and ate and drank before him. And Holofernes was delighted with her, and he drank a very great deal of wine, more than he had ever drunk on one day since he was born. But when evening came, his slaves hastened to withdraw, and Bagoas went out of the tent and closed it, and dismissed the attendants from his master's presence. And they went off to their beds, for they were all tired, because the banquet had been so long. But Judith was left alone in the tent, with Holofernes prostrate upon his bed, for he was drenched with wine. Judith had told her slave to stand outside her bedchamber and wait for her to come out as usual, for she had said that she would go out to offer her prayer, and she had told Bagoas the same thing. So they all went out from his presence, and there was no one, small or great, left in the bedchamber. And Judith stood beside his bed and said in her heart, Lord God of all power, look favorably at this hour upon the works of my hands for the exaltation of Jerusalem. For now is the time to help your inheritance and to carry out my undertaking for the destruction of the enemies who have risen up against us. And she went up to the rail of the bed, which was at Holofernes' head, and she took it down in his shittimar. And she went close to the bed and grasped the hair of his head, and she said, Give me strength, Lord God of Israel, today. And she struck him on the neck twice with all her might, and severed his head from his body. Then she rolled his body off the bed and pulled the canopy down from the pillar.